The alien knew the human arrival meant the truth was out. From his perch atop the tallest tower, he could see the hum of activity below, the steady rhythm of a civilization that prided itself on control and order. To any observer, the planet seemed peaceful, the aliens' content in their advanced society. But he knew better. For centuries, their kind had hidden truths from the rest of the galaxy, manipulating events with quiet precision, shaping alliances and guiding conflicts from the shadows. It had worked flawlessly until now. A disturbance had rippled across their communication networks, subtle but undeniable. The sensors had detected something approaching, something unprecedented. Humans. The alien's heart, if one could call it that, pounded with unease. Humans were a species the galaxy had largely ignored. Their technology was crude by comparison, and their colonies scattered. They were not the dominant force anyone had feared, but there was something about humans that set them apart, something the alien could not yet explain. He had been warned to expect curiosity, intelligence, and resourcefulness, but even with these warnings, nothing could have prepared him for the reality. The human fleet was not large. Only a few ships, small enough to seem harmless, yet each one carried the unmistakable mark of human ingenuity. Their engines pulsed with energy in a way the alien had never seen before, efficient, adaptive, almost alive. The sky shimmered as the first probe descended. It was small, a simple craft but precise in its movement. The alien's sensors recorded every detail, yet there was a sensation, deep within, that went beyond logic. He had studied countless civilizations, yet this one evoked a reaction he could not categorize. He remembered the moment when the sensors first picked up their arrival. It had been a quiet anomaly at first, just a blip in the data, but over hours the anomaly became undeniable. The humans were not hiding. They were coming openly, almost as if they wanted to be noticed. The alien stepped back from the edge of the tower, his mind racing. What were humans like in person? Would they be as simple and predictable as the reports suggested? Or would their unpredictability upend everything he had known about the galaxy? In the council chambers below, his fellow leaders debated the implications. Most urged caution. Some called for preemptive measures, but he stayed silent. He understood the magnitude of the situation in ways they did not. The humans' arrival meant more than a threat to power. It meant exposure. Everything they had hidden, every secret carefully maintained, could no longer remain in the shadows. The probe landed in a clearing near the city's edge. Dust rose from the impact, sparkling in the twin suns. The alien watched as a hatch opened, and a single human emerged. The figure was small and fragile in appearance, but it carried itself with a confidence that surprised him. Its movements were deliberate, purposeful, and above all, curious. The alien felt a strange mix of fear and fascination. He had encountered beings across the stars, from the massive sky swimmers of Nirian to the crystalline mines of Zathra, yet none had struck him so profoundly. The human tilted its head, observing the alien city without hesitation. There was no fear, no awe, only interest. He approached cautiously, making sure his presence was known but not threatening. The human's gaze met his, and for a moment the universe seemed to pause. In that brief silence he felt the weight of centuries pressing down upon him. The truth, the secret his species had guarded, was at risk of being discovered. "You are far from home," he said, his voice a melodic hum, though it carried authority. The human's lips curled into a small smile. "And you are far from ours, but I think we both know why I am here." The alien stiffened. This human spoke boldly, almost arrogantly, and yet there was no aggression. His sensors detected no weapons, no threat, only confidence and curiosity. It was a combination he had never encountered before, one that could unravel the careful order of his world. "Why have you come?" he asked, keeping his tone measured. "To learn," the human replied simply. "To understand, and perhaps to share knowledge." The alien's mind raced. knowledge. The humans were not here to conquer, not yet. They were here to observe, to gather information, to connect. Their presence would inevitably reveal truths. It always did. Curiosity had a way of unraveling even the most secure secrets. He remembered the hidden archives beneath the council chambers, the records of centuries-old manipulations, the files that documented the rise and fall of planets, the orchestrated conflicts that had kept the galaxy in balance. All of it could be exposed by these humans, whose methods were unpredictable, relentless, and profoundly intuitive. A warning siren echoed in the distance, faint but insistent. The other leaders were mobilizing forces, preparing for a potential threat. But the alien stood still, captivated by the human. There was a quality in them, something raw and genuine that made weapons feel irrelevant. "You should leave," he said finally, a trace of urgency in his voice. "You do not understand what you are stepping into." The humans shook their head. "I understand more than you think. Sometimes what is hidden is more dangerous than what is seen. That is why we come." The alien felt a chill. They spoke of hidden dangers with clarity, as if they knew the full extent of what had been concealed. How could a human, unconnected to his civilization, grasp the complexities of centuries of secret governance? The city's inhabitants began to gather at a distance, curious and wary. Their movements were cautious, controlled, yet the alien noticed that many were drawn to the human, unable to resist observing them. There was a magnetism in humans, a capacity to inspire attention without command. The alien realized something important. Humans did not rely on intimidation or fear. Their strength lay in their minds, in their ability to question, adapt, and collaborate. That alone could dismantle the careful frameworks his species had maintained. As the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the city, the alien felt the first stirrings of inevitability. The human's arrival was not a threat to be repelled. It was a challenge to be faced. Every secret he had kept, every manipulation conducted in the shadows, was now vulnerable. He studied the human carefully, noting their posture, their eyes, the subtle gestures that hinted at intelligence and empathy in equal measure. There was no malice, no deceit, only honesty in its purest form. And that honesty, he realized with growing apprehension, could unravel everything. The alien made a decision. He would observe, not attack. He would engage, not conceal. If the humans were as clever as he sensed, confrontation would only hasten the exposure. Instead, he would watch, learn, and, if possible, guide. But even as he made this choice, a quiet fear gnawed at him. The humans' curiosity was unstoppable. Their presence meant the truth, the long-hidden history, the carefully constructed narratives would surface. There was no hiding from it now. The first night on the alien planet was quiet, deceptively calm. The city lights shimmered like stars fallen to the ground, and the alien returned to his high vantage point, watching the human encampment below. They had set up a small observation post, scanning, recording, analyzing. He felt a strange respect for them. They were persistent, patient, and fearless in ways his species had forgotten. And beneath that respect lay a realization that tightened his chest. The universe was about to change, and humanity would be the catalyst. In the dark under the twin moons, he whispered to himself, though no one could hear, "They know, they always know, and now there is no going back." For the first time in centuries, the alien felt a stirring of genuine uncertainty. The humans had arrived, and with them, the truth was no longer his to control. The galaxy would never be the same again. The morning on the alien world arrived with a gentle glow from the twin suns. The sky shimmered in hues of gold and violet, reflecting off the smooth, metallic surfaces of the city. Despite the early hour, the city's inhabitants were already moving with precision, carrying out routines honed over generations. Yet the alien could feel a shift in the rhythm, an underlying tension that had begun the moment the humans had landed. The humans had spent the night observing. From their small encampment near the edge of the city, they had not attempted to interfere, yet their presence radiated curiosity and purpose. The alien had watched them, noting their methodical approach, the way they recorded data, discussed findings in quiet voices, and moved with a confidence that came from trust in one another. There was no fear in their gestures, no hesitation, only deliberate action. The alien descended from his vantage point, moving toward the humans cautiously. He had debated all night what approach to take. To confront them directly was risky. To ignore them entirely was riskier. The humans were not like other species he had encountered. They had a capacity to adapt, to think critically, to see beyond surface appearances. And that meant the secrets of his civilization were at risk. As he approached, one of the humans looked up. Their eyes, dark and reflective, met his with steady curiosity. "Good morning," the human said, voice clear and calm. "I hope we are not intruding." The alien paused, measuring the words. There was no deception here, no hidden agenda in the tone, only honesty. He inclined his head slightly. "You are not intruding," he replied. "But you must understand that your presence changes more than you realize." The human nodded, seemingly unbothered. "We understand. That is why we come carefully. We wish to learn, not to take." The alien studied them, noting the way the human's companions moved behind them, scanning instruments in hand. Every action was purposeful, every observation precise. He realized that they were not relying on fear or force. Their intelligence, their reasoning, and their attention to detail were their tools. "You observe carefully," he said, "but do you understand what you are observing?" The human tilted their head, considering the question. "We try. That is all we can do." Observation is only the first step. Understanding comes later. The alien sensors detected subtle readings, patterns of thought and emotion that were unusual. Humans were unpredictable. They could reason, but they could also imagine, and imagination often led to insight that logic alone could not reach. That combination was rare in the galaxy. He led them toward the city, choosing a path that allowed him to monitor both their reactions and their methods. The humans moved without hesitation, carefully noting everything: the design of the buildings, the patterns of energy flow, the subtle behaviors of the citizens. They asked questions, not in an accusatory way, but in a manner that sought to piece together the story behind what they saw. The alien realized that each question, each observation, chipped away at the walls he had built around his civilization's secrets. They did not demand answers, they inferred them. They did not push directly, but their curiosity forced revelation. "Why do your cities shine like this?" one of the humans asked, pointing to the reflective surfaces that caught the sunlight. "It is efficiency," the alien replied. "Our structures are designed to optimize energy use and maintain balance." The human nodded, taking notes. "But is it only efficiency, or does it also signal power, control?" The alien paused. This question, simple though it seemed, pierced deeper than any interrogation his species had ever faced. Humans did not accept surface explanations. They questioned underlying motives, patterns, and consequences. As they moved deeper into the city, citizens began to notice the humans. Small groups gathered, cautious at first, then more curious. The humans noticed this too, recording gestures, interactions, and reactions. They did not speak to provoke, nor did they act to dominate. Their presence alone prompted reflection, analysis, and understanding. The alien felt a growing unease. Humans had a way of exposing truth without confrontation. Their observations were subtle, but they were relentless. Over time, even the smallest details would reveal inconsistencies, anomalies, and secrets. They stopped at a public square where a fountain pulsed with energy, casting arcs of light into the air. The humans studied it closely, measuring energy flows, noting patterns, and exchanging quiet observations. "This is beautiful," one human said, But I sense there is more here than decoration. It is functional, yes, but also symbolic." The alien nodded slowly. "Yes. It represents balance, order, and continuity. It is both aesthetic and practical, as all things in our society are designed to be." The human smiled faintly. "We do something similar. We call it purpose. Every creation has meaning, both functional and symbolic." The alien felt a twinge of recognition. Here was a species that, though primitive in some ways, had a deep appreciation for nuance and intent. They were not satisfied with the obvious. They sought meaning, and in seeking meaning, they would uncover truths that were not meant to be revealed. They continued their exploration, moving toward a research facility that had been abandoned centuries ago. The alien hesitated at the threshold. The humans' presence here would be dangerous, not to them, but to the stability of his civilization's narrative. Inside were records, artifacts, and instruments that detailed the history of manipulation, control, and guidance his species had exerted across the galaxy. "You do not forbid us from entering?" one human asked. "I cannot," the alien admitted. "But I warn you, what you see here is not for outsiders. You may not understand it fully, and yet understanding it partially could be dangerous." The human nodded, as if they had anticipated the warning. "We accept that. Knowledge carries responsibility, but ignorance carries its own risks." Inside the facility, the humans began to examine the data. Their approach was systematic yet creative. They cross-referenced instruments, pieced together fragments, and questioned anomalies. The alien watched, fascinated and apprehensive. He realized that humans were capable of connecting dots that others could not, of seeing patterns that had been intentionally hidden. Hours passed. The humans discovered traces of past interventions, subtle manipulations of other civilizations, adjustments in trade routes, and interventions in conflicts. Yet they did not react with fear or anger. They analyzed, interpreted, and questioned. Their reactions were thoughtful, deliberate, and insightful. The alien felt a sense of inevitability. Humans did not need to attack or demand. Their presence alone, their methods of inquiry, would uncover what had been concealed. He understood now why his sensors had reacted so strongly to their arrival. By mid-afternoon, the humans had gathered enough information to begin forming hypotheses. They spoke quietly among themselves, exchanging insights and testing assumptions. The alien listened, noting their reasoning, impressed by the clarity and depth of their analysis. "Your species," one human said softly, "has guided others for centuries. Perhaps with good intentions, perhaps not, but secrecy carries risk. Transparency may be difficult, but it also brings stability in unexpected ways." The alien felt a chill. The humans had articulated a truth he had known, yet had avoided acknowledging. Secrecy had maintained control, yes, but it had also created fragility. Humans, with their relentless curiosity and insistence on understanding, threatened that fragile balance. He realized the choice he faced: continue the careful deception, risking exposure, or engage, reveal, and adapt. The human's approach offered a possibility, a way to transform potential disaster into cooperation. Yet, it required trust, something he had long deemed unnecessary with other species. As the day drew to a close, the humans left the facility, carrying their data and observations. They did not boast, threaten, or demand. Their presence alone had begun to unravel the careful narratives his species had constructed over centuries. The alien returned to his city, contemplating the events of the day. The humans were not conquerors. They were not invaders. But their arrival had altered the balance irrevocably. Their curiosity, intelligence, and integrity were forces that could not be ignored or contained. At night, beneath the twin moons, he observed them from a distance. Around a small campfire, they discussed their findings, theorized, and planned next steps. Their voices carried across the quiet landscape, calm but determined. He understood now what he had sensed when their probe first arrived. Humans were not just another species. They were catalysts. Their arrival signaled not destruction but revelation. Every secret, every hidden truth, every careful manipulation, none of it would remain untouched. The alien's mind was restless. He had lived centuries managing outcomes, guiding civilizations, and maintaining order. But humans did not play by those rules. Their methods were different, their thinking unpredictable, yet brilliant. And that brilliance, he realized, was unstoppable. In the quiet of the night, he whispered to himself, though no one could hear, "They see, they always see, and with them here the truth can no longer remain hidden." He looked at the human's small fire, feeling a mixture of respect, fear, and anticipation. The coming days would not be easy. The humans would push boundaries, ask questions, and uncover truths, and in doing so they would change everything. But the alien also felt a spark of hope. Perhaps with humans there was a chance to redefine history, to correct past mistakes, and to build something new. A future where knowledge, collaboration, and ingenuity guided the galaxy instead of secrecy and fear. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the alien city, he knew one thing with certainty. Humanity's arrival was not an ending, but a beginning. And the world, his world, would never be the same again. The following morning dawned with a pale light, filtering softly through the twin suns. The alien could feel the tension growing within his city. Every corner, every corridor seemed sharper, more aware, as if even the buildings themselves sensed the presence of the humans. He walked quietly, observing his fellow citizens as they carried out their routines. Most were unaware of the real threat the humans represented, not in weapons or violence, but in truth. The humans had moved from observation to investigation. They no longer simply noted the city's architecture or energy systems. Their questions were deeper now, probing the history, culture, and decisions of the alien civilization. Each inquiry, each subtle observation, felt like a small chip carving away at centuries of secrecy. The alien watched them from a distance, noting their methodical approach. They had divided their efforts, some focusing on historical archives, others on cultural patterns, and a few attempting to understand the technological frameworks that supported the city. It was an unusual method, but he understood why it worked. Humans combined patience with ingenuity. They were persistent, adaptable, and able to see connections that others missed. He remembered a time long ago when his species had faced similar challenges from within, curious minds who asked too many questions, who could not be satisfied with simple answers. Those minds had been contained, redirected, or silenced, but the humans were different. They were not citizens of this world, and thus no force could control them in the same way. The humans paused in front of a grand archive, a structure carved into the ground, its walls shimmering with energy fields that stored the collective memory of the civilization. The alien hesitated. Inside were records of every manipulation, every calculated intervention, every subtle action that had shaped the galaxy according to his species' design. "You cannot forbid us from entering," one human asked, voice calm but firm. "I can warn you," the alien replied. "But once you see what is inside, there is no unseeing it. Knowledge carries consequences, and some truths are heavier than you may realize." The human nodded, understanding the gravity. "We accept that. We seek understanding, even if it challenges everything." Inside, the humans moved carefully, scanning the records, cross-referencing information, and noting patterns. They were meticulous, and the alien found himself both impressed and unsettled. He had never encountered a species capable of reconstructing hidden truths so efficiently. Each observation they made, each connection they drew, slowly revealed the extent of the secrets that had been preserved for centuries. Hours passed, and the humans discovered traces of past interventions, subtle manipulations of trade routes, political decisions and conflicts across distant star systems. The alien noticed something remarkable. The humans did not react with judgment, anger, or fear. Instead, they analyzed, asked questions, and considered the broader implications. Their approach was deliberate, thoughtful, and insightful. "They are uncovering our history," he whispered to himself, "and they do so without malice." One human spoke softly, almost to themselves. "They have guided entire civilizations without revealing themselves. Perhaps for stability, perhaps for control, but secrecy carries risks. Exposure is inevitable." The alien felt a chill. They had articulated a truth he had long avoided confronting. Secrecy had maintained order, yes, but it had also created fragility. Humans, with their persistence and clarity, were unmasking that fragility. He followed them as they moved to the observation deck, a place overlooking the city. From this vantage point, the humans could see the structures, the energy flows, and the patterns of daily life. They paused, exchanging ideas quietly. "Everything here has purpose," one human said. "Nothing is accidental, but the design, the control, it is too complete. It limits freedom in ways that may have seemed beneficial, but are ultimately fragile." The alien sensors picked up subtle signs of agitation among his people. Citizens who had watched the humans' exploration were now whispering among themselves, uncertain, curious, and a little afraid. Even without direct confrontation, the human's presence was changing behavior, shifting perceptions, and challenging assumptions. He realized that containment was no longer possible. The humans had discovered patterns that were intentional yet invisible to most of the population. Their questions, their analysis, and their curiosity were unraveling a narrative that had taken centuries to construct. In the council chambers, debates grew heated. Many leaders demanded action, proposing to restrict access, to intercept the humans, or even to erase the data they had collected. But the alien resisted. He had watched humans for 2 days and observed their methods. Aggression would only accelerate exposure. The humans were not ordinary invaders. They thrived on knowledge and observation, not fear. "You cannot control them," he warned. "Their minds are not bound by our rules, our systems, or our authority. Anything we attempt will only reveal more than we intend." The council was skeptical, but he remained firm. He had seen it. The humans' persistence and logic were unmatched. They could reconstruct hidden histories with patience, intelligence, and subtle insight. The choice was clear: resist, and the secrets would spill uncontrollably. Engage, and there was a chance to guide the revelation. Meanwhile, the humans had begun to piece together the framework of influence his species had exerted across the galaxy. They identified interventions that had stabilized conflicts, others that had subtly redirected civilizations, and even decisions that had prevented catastrophes. Their understanding was growing, yet they remained respectful, analytical, and thoughtful. One human spoke, breaking the quiet. "They were careful, yes, but caution can never prevent curiosity. Every civilization has patterns, and every action leaves traces. We can see the connections now, even if they tried to hide them." The alien realized the truth in the words. Humans did not need to know everything at once. They worked methodically, patiently, and with empathy. And in their understanding, they were revealing vulnerabilities, both in the systems and in the people who maintained them. He decided to guide them subtly, providing just enough information to satisfy their curiosity without causing panic. It was a delicate balance, one that required insight, judgment, and restraint. But if handled correctly, it could turn potential disaster into opportunity. The humans paused near a holographic map of the galaxy, studying star systems, energy flows, and historical events. One of them pointed to a distant sector. "Here," they said, "there was intervention, but the pattern is unusual. Perhaps they learned, perhaps they were cautious. Either way, it shows intention and planning." The alien nodded. "Yes, that is one of our earliest manipulations. We acted to prevent a war that could have destroyed thousands of lives. The human considered this. Your methods were effective, but secrecy has its cost. Transparency might have prevented some consequences entirely. Perhaps knowledge shared can guide better outcomes. The alien felt a pang of conscience. Humans spoke with clarity and logic, but also with an understanding of morality and responsibility he had long avoided. They did not judge harshly, they considered outcomes. They questioned without condemning, and that was the power that made them so dangerous and so remarkable. As the day passed, the humans' exploration continued. They moved through the city, documenting, analyzing, and questioning. Every interaction, every observation, built a network of understanding that the alien could not contain. By evening, the alien returned to his observation point, overlooking both the city and the humans' small camp. He realized that their arrival had already changed the world in subtle, irreversible ways. Citizens were thinking differently, questioning previously accepted truths, and reacting with curiosity rather than blind obedience. He understood now that the humans were not conquerors, nor were they mere observers. They were catalysts, and their presence forced adaptation. The city, his civilization, and even he himself would have to change. The humans gathered around a small device that projected star systems, historical events, and energy flows. They debated quietly, sharing insights and formulating new questions. The alien listened, recognizing that their collaboration was the key to their progress. They did not rely on authority or force. They relied on reasoning, insight, and cooperation. The alien knew that the moment had arrived when secrecy could no longer preserve stability. The humans' methods, combined with their curiosity, would inevitably expose hidden truths. The question was no longer whether they would uncover the past, but what would happen when they did. In the council chambers, the alien prepared to make a proposal. He would suggest engagement rather than restriction. He would offer guidance, transparency in controlled amounts, and collaboration instead of suppression. The humans could be allies, not threats, if approached wisely. That night, as the twin moons cast silver light across the city, the alien reflected on the events of the day. Humans had revealed weaknesses in centuries of careful planning, yet they also offered a possibility, a way to build trust, to reshape history with knowledge rather than secrecy, and to prevent greater mistakes in the future. He watched the humans' small campfires flicker in the distance. They spoke softly, analyzed their discoveries, and planned their next steps. There was no arrogance, no desire to dominate, only a quiet determination to understand and act responsibly. For the first time in centuries, the alien felt a mixture of fear and hope. The humans had the power to change everything, but they also had the wisdom to guide change thoughtfully. Their arrival was not a threat in the traditional sense. It was a revelation, one that demanded adaptation and courage. He whispered to himself, a quiet vow under the moon's glow, "We cannot hide the truth anymore. With them here, it must be shared, guided, and understood. And perhaps together, we can shape a future none of us could achieve alone." The next morning broke quietly over the alien city, but the silence carried a weight heavier than any sound. The twin suns cast long, golden streaks across the polished streets, and yet the usual rhythm of life felt altered. Citizens moved with cautious curiosity, whispering to one another, glancing toward the humans' camp at the city's edge. The alien watched from a distance, sensing the subtle shift. The humans' presence had already begun to reshape perceptions, and today would be decisive. The humans emerged from their encampment with renewed purpose. They had spent the night reviewing their findings, drawing connections between events that had seemed isolated before. Their voices were calm but intense, filled with the quiet energy of minds that were seeing beyond the obvious. The alien approached them, walking with measured steps. "Today," he said, "we must decide how this unfolds. The truths you have begun to uncover cannot be hidden any longer. The humans listened carefully. Their expressions were serious, but they carried no fear. "We do not wish to punish," one of them said. "We seek understanding, and we can help guide what must be revealed so that the outcomes are better than secrecy alone would allow." The alien considered this. His species had maintained control through careful management, guiding civilizations in secret, believing that concealment was necessary to prevent chaos. But humans had shown him another path, a path where intelligence, curiosity, and integrity could achieve stability without manipulation. Together, they moved toward the central archive, the heart of the city's hidden knowledge. Inside, vast holographic records shimmered, projecting histories, decisions, and interventions spanning centuries. The humans studied them quietly, cross-referencing events, noting connections, and asking questions that peeled back layers of assumption. The alien followed closely, careful not to interfere but ready to guide when necessary. "Some of these actions," he said, "were intended to protect weaker civilizations to prevent widespread suffering, but even well-intentioned secrecy has costs. You see it now." "The patterns are fragile," one human nodded. "Yes, and we can learn from both the intentions and the outcomes. Knowledge shared can prevent mistakes, help balance choices, and create trust. Secrecy, even with good motives, undermines that." The alien felt a surge of respect and apprehension. Here was a species that did not seek to control, yet they possessed a power far greater than force: insight. Insight could reshape worlds, reveal hidden truths, and change the very structure of civilizations. Hours passed as the humans continued their examination. They identified key interventions, mapped the consequences, and even discovered areas where the alien civilization's influence had inadvertently caused instability. Their approach was meticulous, analytical, and thoughtful. They did not judge harshly, but instead focused on understanding the larger picture. The alien realized that this was the moment of choice. His species could attempt to conceal, to restrict access and risk exposure and mistrust, or they could embrace transparency, guided by the humans' wisdom, and turn revelation into opportunity. He decided. "We will not resist," he declared to the council. "The human's presence shows us another way. We must guide this truth, not hide it. Exposure is inevitable, but it can be managed responsibly." The council murmured in surprise and hesitation, but the alien's confidence was unwavering. He had seen the humans' methods firsthand. Their persistence, intelligence, and empathy meant they would uncover everything eventually. Resistance would only worsen the consequences. That afternoon, the humans presented their findings to a gathering of the city's leaders. Their approach was respectful and measured. They described patterns, explained reasoning, and highlighted outcomes without accusation. Their clarity and honesty commanded attention. "You acted with care," one human said, "but even careful manipulation has unintended consequences." Transparency allows civilizations to learn, adapt, and thrive. Guidance can exist without concealment. Knowledge shared strengthens trust and stability. The alien watched as his fellow leaders absorbed the words. Some resisted, struggling with the idea of revealing long-held secrets. Others began to nod, seeing the potential benefits. The human's perspective offered a path forward, a way to maintain influence responsibly, without deception. In the following hours, the humans and the alien worked together to prepare a controlled release of information. They identified what could be shared immediately, what required context, and what should be explained carefully to prevent misunderstanding. The process was deliberate, collaborative, and precise. Citizens gathered as knowledge was unveiled. Holographic records illuminated plazas, while guided explanations helped the population understand the history, the interventions, and the intentions behind decisions that had shaped their world. Reactions varied. Some were shocked, others curious, and many intrigued by the careful reasoning that had guided choices. The humans helped interpret the information, answering questions with patience and clarity. They emphasized understanding, empathy, and the value of learning from both successes and mistakes. Their presence transformed revelation from chaos into opportunity. The alien felt a mixture of relief and awe. The humans had achieved what secrecy could not. They had taken potential disaster and turned it into collaboration, education, and hope. For the first time, the alien saw a future where knowledge, rather than concealment, guided his civilization. By evening, the city was transformed. Citizens moved with awareness, curiosity, and cautious excitement. Discussions sparked across communities, connecting people who had never spoken. Knowledge empowered rather than threatened. The humans' methods had reshaped perception, fostered trust, and created a foundation for a new era. The alien returned to the observation tower, looking out over the city as the twin moons rose. The humans were still at work, reviewing data, planning their next steps, and sharing insights. They had not imposed themselves. They had guided, suggested, and illuminated paths previously unseen. A sense of profound change filled him. His species had relied on secrecy for centuries, believing it was necessary for stability. But humans had shown another way. Transparency, reasoning, and collaboration could achieve what secrecy could not. The galaxy could be guided without manipulation, nurtured without concealment. The alien reflected on his own journey. He had feared exposure, feared loss of control, and feared unpredictability. Yet in embracing humans' approach, he had discovered possibility, trust, and hope. The universe was not diminished by truth, it was strengthened. Night deepened, and the humans gathered their equipment, preparing to continue their mission across the stars. They had completed their work on this planet, but their influence would ripple further. The alien approached them one last time before their departure. "You have changed more than you know," he said quietly. "Not just the people here, but me. We relied on concealment for so long, yet your presence has shown that knowledge shared responsibly can achieve more than secrecy ever could." The human smiled, a simple gesture that carried warmth and understanding. "That is what we do: curiosity, observation, and collaboration. We seek understanding, not domination, and we hope that knowledge empowers rather than controls." The alien nodded, feeling a quiet gratitude. They were not conquerors, not invaders, not enemies. They were catalysts, illuminating possibilities and guiding change. Their presence had forced his civilization to face its past, understand its actions, and choose a new way forward. As the human ships lifted off, the alien watched them disappear into the sky, leaving trails of light that shimmered like silver threads. He felt a sense of finality, but also a promise of new understanding, new alliances, and new opportunities. The city below him was alive with reflection, discussion, and curiosity. Citizens had begun to question, to analyze, and to imagine a future shaped by knowledge and collaboration rather than secrecy. The alien knew that the process was only beginning, but the foundation was strong. He whispered to himself, a vow under the twin moons: "We have learned. We have adapted, and with this a new era begins, one guided by truth, ingenuity, and the courage to face what has long been hidden." The alien looked toward the stars, seeing more than darkness or distance. He saw possibility, he saw partnership. And most importantly, he saw the reflection of humanity, a species that arrived not to conquer, but to reveal, to guide, and to inspire. The galaxy, he realized, would never be the same, and that change, though unsettling at first, was something he welcomed. With humans, with understanding, and with knowledge shared responsibly, a future of unprecedented opportunity awaited. The twin moons hung high in the sky, and for the first time in centuries, the alien felt a sense of peace. The humans had arrived. The truth was out. And together, they had the chance to build something greater than secrecy, fear, or control could ever achieve. He turned from the observation tower, walking through the city now alive with conversation and thought. The future was uncertain, but it was full of possibility. And for the first time, the alien understood that humanity's arrival had not been a threat, it had been a gift. The alien knew the human arrival meant the truth was out.